Welcome back to Oscar Design. Today we tore the engine apart and we found some pretty neat surprises. First off, it is not as stock as we thought it was. It has 30 over pistons and they're not cast. They're forged. So that's a big upgrade in strength. It does have stock rods, but it doesn't have stock bolts. So it has ARP rod bolts. So that's good for a bit more RPM. So I'm not as worried about turning this thing a bit higher this next season. Depending on what happens with heads, should work very well. Today we have another step in the process of getting this engine back together. This is the new high volume and pressure oil pump and custom pickup with 3/4 ID tube. This is much better than a stock or a regular aftermarket prefab pickup that you would get from, say, Summit, which is actually what we have over here. This is 3/4 OD, so then that actually, the inlet to the pump is actually 3/4. So when you use a inlet or a pickup like that, you end up, before oil even gets to the pump, you're cutting off flow. So this is a big upgrade, and hopefully we'll keep our bottom end in really good shape while we turn her higher than we've ever turned her before. W for win. So we started out with water jet parts, measured up, designed them in CAD. When it came, that was supposed to be the centerpiece, and somehow when we took our measurements to CAD, we didn't make this wide enough, because these support bars were supposed to go underneath this plate to give it strength when it's pushed down, right? Otherwise, you're, relying on the weld to hold this plate from being pushed down. And tacked it to this 1/4-inch plate, and that worked great. The 1/4-inch plate was longer. Of course, put that in our press, and it bent. We're like, oh, well, obviously it bent. So then we just sat it on top of this big plate. Next thing we ran into was we pressed the pin out of the first piston. We got it most of the way out and realized that there wasn't enough space under here. Didn't calculate how much space would be needed to actually press the pin all the way out, because the pin has to leave the rod here and have enough space to actually fall out. So we had to cut the 1/4-inch plate away, and that gave us enough space. But then you have nothing to stop this from tipping, right? This is like this, and now there's nothing to support it there. So then we had to weld it back here, nasty quick, and now it finally works. So that's what you get when you don't want to spend $1,200. You do some work and get this. So that is where we are now, with a functional jig to press out stock Ford big block wristbands. And now I'm going to show you. And here we are. All the pistons pressed out. So I'm going to give each piston a good look over, just to make sure none of them cracked. I really don't think any of them did, but just to make sure, just give them a good look over. Other than that, that's it. So if someone wants these rods, they have ARP bolts in them, studs, whatever you want to call them. Don't know too much about them, but I mean, if you run 400 horsepower, it'd be totally fine for you. Or if you're running a stock engine, just want rods, these would be a good upgrade. Besides that, everything looks good. Excited for how this is going to go together. Parts are coming in, and we will get this thing running shortly. Okay, so what we have here is a set of SR71 heads from John Kasse Racing. We got a stud kit with it. We got them shaved down 30 thou, so they're now like a 60, I believe like 63 cc chamber around there. Yeah, stud kit, the head gasket for it as well. What else do we get? The regular spring package for the roller, solid roller setup. It's for the small bore, since we're only 4390 on this engine. So the 1700 exhaust valve. And I think that's pretty much everything. Kind of get into them and just see what they look like. The heads were packaged very, very well. They were kind of bashed up, so they were box in box with bubble wrap, as you can see there. Everything came, nothing was missing, even with all our extra parts for our particular order. So it was very good. Good. So here is the second China rail. I was getting worried about that, but everything else looks like it's here. Okay, so here's the sheet. I was going to tell you all about the stats and all the information about the SR71 heads, but audio was lost. For some reason, I was using my mic. Must not have set it up. But that's okay. What I'm going to tell you here is the reason why I bought these heads, and that is because personally, I believe they are the most cost-effective way to make the most horsepower per dollar. Some ways that didn't end up being the case because I ended up having to buy rods because these heads were going to make so much horsepower that we were worried about the bottom end of my engine just exploding. So I ended up having to buy rods anyways, so maybe not the best case. I know, probably should have bought a bottom end first, but anyways, so that was reason one, and the other reason is that these heads are the last heads that I'm ever going to have to buy for this engine. There's no heads besides this that I'll ever need to put on, and if I need more horsepower, I will just get these heads ported. Yeah, so first thing I had to do with these heads is I had to drill a giant hole into them, tap them for our water system as we flow water through the head instead of it kind of being like pumped around the front of the engine and not really getting to the back of the cylinders, to the rear cylinders. Then we took off the springs to check for clearance. We put on dummy springs. Here we're just drilling out the holes and tapping them for the new China walls that you need to run with the SR71 heads. And they went on pretty well. We did drill them out just a little bit to make things work, and then this was problem number one.
The design walls raised our venom intake so high that it interfered with our ready to run.
Had to change distributors because the ready to run 2-wire has all the electronics in it in the bottom, and it interfered with the intake as well. Set everything up, tried to check for clearance, and since these are not SR71 pistons, we were trying to not save money, not to be cheap, but not spend extra unnecessary amounts. So we just had to clearance a little bit on these pistons. This is the first one, so it looks a little bit ugly. But on these ones that we have set up now, just cleared that corner for where the valve sits on these SR71 heads. So that's that. It's done for the first side, so we have the passenger side. We're just going to stick those pistons in, put the head on, check the clearance on each piston, make sure it's only tight on the intake and the exhaust is fine. And then after that, clearance the other ones using the template as well that I made up, and then assemble those in. So things are taking a little bit more time than I would have liked, but it is getting there.
Okay, so after we got the pistons in, we just, put the heads on, torqued all that stuff down. We had to make some little changes for the intake, just tiny little clearances on the distributor as well. For the pan, we had a whole new windage tray set up, so that took a bit of on and off as well. But once we got all that stuff done, it really went together pretty easily. And then we just slammed it in the tractor like we always do, and here it was, up and running in no time.